Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you fine folks around the globe. This is your bestower of credit, deviser of prices, ranker of power, and celebrator of cake, username Blue Socks, proud to bring you his nail-biting installment of non-stop action. If you've been enjoying the Battle Royale, head over to the Megathread in r/Civ Battle Royale to offer tribute to based god TPangolin and his fellow Civ modders. Make sure to ignore work and family obligations to keep up to date in the latest conjecture and original content found on this subreddit. In some cultures, it's considered appropriate for the birthday boy to supply gifts to his guests. I can think of no greater gift than to bring you the r/Civ 60+ Civ Battle Royale Part 10, Let Slip the Frogs of War. Many thanks to username Cylonel for the continued supply of high quality maps. Take a moment to enjoy the state of the world as we left it in, preferably at full resolution for all the yummy goodness, because it won't stay like this for long. Here are your top 10 contenders as determined by a crack team of elite power rankers. Notice the glaring error above, as Yakusha fails to be recognized for its true power. I blame Canada. A beautiful rendition of the world in Country Balls format by username Emerald Range. Remember to check out r/Civ Battle Royale for stuff like this on a daily basis. When we left Portugal in the last installment, Maria had been put in the global spotlight as several countries decided they just plain didn't like her. Here we see, wait, a navy of elephants storming Arisham? I guess Hannibal saw how well it worked for Leonidas and Darius, and he wants in on the action. I wonder what the buoyancy of those Punic elephants are. Just the fact that this is happening made me so giddy I almost completely missed Antium falling into the red. What a gain for Leonidas. Looks like he's going straight for the jugular. Napoleon has made it through the Alpine Pass and is knocking on Ravenna's door, but his invading force is less than imposing. Of note, Mongolia has no use for China anymore, and Ingolfur says that he's taught Lincoln the lesson he deserved for that brazen settling of St. Louis. Honestly, Abe, what the fuck were you thinking? After making peace with Selassie, Paul Kruger can now focus his full attention on Banza Congo. A swordsman takes the brunt of the damage, laying his life on the line to protect the capital. A Zulu scout trembles in horror and sends word to Shaka that Kruger is not to be fucked with. That isn't stopping Zinga though. She wants Kakongo back and she actually brought some melee units to do it. At the very top of the slide we see a slap fight outside of Klerksdorp. Really, username King Egbert, you give Australia shit for their city names and let this atrocity slide? For shame. By the way, are you sitting down? If you aren't, you really should be. I hate to break this to you, but here's Chile in all its glory. That's right folks, the hype train is pulled into the station, and O'Higgins has made a decent nation for himself and secured open borders with Argentina. I think it was a good deal for Chile. They get to put land units in Argentina and scout out a path for the infamous backdoor squad. And Perón gets to put a single trireme in Chilean waters. What could go wrong? Copiapo has grown nicely since the last time we never got to see it ever before. Thank you TPang for re-rolling, so we could get more of this pleasantly colourful South American eye candy. The city will be an important staging point in the future. However, Chile has been struggling with overall growth, and it seems to have fallen behind in tech. With Buenos Aires at 21 pop, Argentina is better friend than foe. Looks like Bernardo is making a smart decision so far. How long will it last? Check out those terrace farms outside Cusco. The Incan unique tile improvement provides +1 food with an additional +1 for each adjacent mountain, of which the Inca have plenty. Pachacuti could use the additional growth after a protracted war, though his real estate pales in comparison to the green giant of the Amazon. Perón thinks so too, and she sends a spearman in to check out the dense jungle. This makes Pachacuti jealous, and he orders his minstrels to play goth pan flute while he skulks in his chambers. Of note, Morgan has put a cork in the bottleneck to the north to protect Campec, charging an exorbitant fee to leave the continent. Some Hawaiians are negotiating passage through the Nassau Canal, sharing tales of Pacific superpowers over a jug of grog. They admire the Bucks Islands and offer a choice recipe for Loco Moco. What follows is my attempt at Hawaiian pidgin. Rice, spam, egg, misam up, is da kind brother. Brokadamaut. This confuses the pirates, who are already self-conscious about dental hygiene, but they do like the sound of it. Eva's keeping Paraná undefended, almost as if to tempt Morgan into war. I'm sure he'd love to add this to his collection of cities, but since it holds no threat, he's wiser to leave it be for now and see what the future holds. In this slide we see Picard's lone swordsman among a woefully outdated military. On the plus side, he finally figured out that wood floats and is testing some naval vessels on the open seas. Also, there's peace in the Middle East, and David have now BFFs for life with Genghis Khan. They spend hours every night sending notes to each other via carrier pigeon. They promise they'll never do anything to hurt each other, because that's totally not what BFFs do. Of note, a Brazilian trireme just generally being an all-round arsehole and hogging all the atoll to itself. I hope you get shipwrecked. That tile doesn't even belong to anybody, you dick. Moving on. Wow, Waipahu, how you have grown. Even when they're not doing it island style, the Hawaiians are still doing it plenty. I'm sure Benito is salivating over that potential addition to his empire, but first he has to learn how to actually take cities. In the meantime, Los Angeles and Merida need some room to breathe. Sadly, Mexico has the lowest average city population in all of the Western Hemisphere. If only Benito had been able to get Petra before those pesky Sioux stole his dreams away. Oh look, America finally has some composite archers. It's about time. It also appears as though the Sioux and the Blackfoot might have open borders too. It's hard to tell through the fog though. Note from TPang regarding Waipahu's growth. This quote from username Antimatagizmo comes to mind. And as usual, Kame is the king of luau and chill, a new method of courting while watching dances through the seasons with your partner, usually ending in ohana. I have no fucking idea what any of that means. Speaking of which, let's head over to the Northern Leagues where the Sioux think they can play ball with the Inuit. To be fair, they do have some crooked numbers on the board. We get our first look at Mawahota, where the venison is kept so fresh it's on ice before it hits the ground. We also get a glimpse at an astutely placed citadel. If the Inuit decide to rekindle the Indian War, this will prove to be a valuable base of operations in the Arctic theater. In the meantime, they've sent over a trireme to make obscene gestures and boast about being the true Snowbros. Congo Breaker! Zinga drives the Pale Skins out and reclaims the city for Congo. The swordsman outside Mbanza Congo still seems to be holding on with help from reinforcements. All in all, a good turn for the Congo here. Interestingly, the Boers have completely abandoned Petersburg during all the action. Also, looks like Kamasi is going to fall to Morocco again. I'm assuming there are more than just 2 triremes staging the assault, but given how this game has gone so far, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the entirety of their invasion forces. Well, hot damn. As if Kuchum Khan needed more enemies, he decides to go and build Machu Picchu, giving a hefty boost to Zabir's treasury. Picard denounces Attila, and someone lost a capital. I wonder who that could be. Also, in that general area of the screen is another expertly placed citadel. I've been rather impressed with the AI's use of them in this game. I haven't seen a pointless citadel yet. Notice Urgench doesn't need one, as Afghanistan hasn't even been able to put a dent in it. Of note, a Timurid settler has nowhere to go. Bummer. And like that, Persia fittingly has control of the Gulf. This puts them in a great spot for expansion. All the neighboring cities have modest population sizes and few defending units. Persia came up on this peace treaty. They seem to be fine with letting that Mughal scout camp out on their stone though. I wouldn't be cool with it, but I did just successfully launch an amphibious assault, so what do I know? In Negombo we see Sri Lanka's first UU, the Balata, a longswordsman unlocked at metal casting, who heals 3 times as fast when on a river tile. We also see a Finnish scout trying to go unnoticed outside Israel. He may be a nice guy, but that's not enough to enter this holy land. By the way, are you still sitting down? Because here's China in all its glory. Yeah, it just doesn't have the same pizzazz the second time around. Some Mongolian archers relayed the news of their Siberian acquisitions to the Korean swordsmen at Guangzhou. Word got around and Sejong started a chain of high fives that led all the way to Genghis Khan himself. Now they're standing outside of Beijing with their arms folded and laughing at what's left of a former, I can't believe it, second place ranked civ. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. If you look hard enough, you can almost see where someone spray painted Chairman Mao Zedong on the walls of Beijing. There's Yakusha, doing nothing. They have a catapult, and some other stuff. There was some talk about where r/Civ Model World Congress should put their home base. How about where that cluster of scouts is hanging out up there? If you're like me, the first thing you noticed was this slide were the Hawaiian soldiers just chilling out on the Asian mainland. Not the cluster of Vietnamese trebuchets on the left. It's hard to tell their purpose for being there, since Kamehameha could have easily sent scouts if he wanted to check out the area. Looks like Meiji isn't going to let Haiphong convert to Akatu if he can help it. Of note, in the peace treaty between Vietnam and the Philippines, it looks like Rizal got to keep vegan in exchange for a one-way open borders agreement. In other news, Central Africa is quiet again. I wonder what the terms of that agreement happened to be. Well, Zinga got to keep Kakongo without giving anything else away. A solid display by the Congo so far. I am impressed. Oh hey, I didn't even realize Tibet and the Mughals were still fighting. I guess they didn't either, until someone found a tattered book in an attic. They blew off the dust and could only make out part of the title. Something something fight wars. Oh shit, that's right. I forgot to send that letter to Akbar. Back to the great clusterfuck where AI stands for amphibious invasion. Hannibal has seized Orisham, leaving only 2 Punic elephants and a pair of spearmen to defend against the entire Portuguese army. It's a ballsy move, but it could be disastrous if it fails. He has next to nothing when it comes to reinforcements. He has put on a good protective force to allow that settler to claim Sardinia if he can gain control of the tile. Leonidas is once again proving the ruthless might of Sparta by laying waste to the Roman navy. Cumae still stands tall with nary a scratch, while Sparta storms the seas. With Antium circling the drain, Rome will soon join Germany in the Three-City Club. And after all that warring, who knew these two would have so much in common? Of note, France has upgraded to pikemen, possibly preparing to join in against Portugal. There are other Moroccan triremes. Kumasi is about to pull a Bilma and fall back into the hands of Maroun al-Manslaughter. I'll leave it up to the guys at the War Room and their thorough recording of conflicts around the globe to tally the number of times the city has changed hands. Of note, the Ashanti territory looks like a turtle here. Too bad they didn't try that strategy instead. Here we see Morocco in its entirety. Can anyone tell me why they still haven't settled that one-tile island next to Leiria? Interestingly, they've posted a spearman on the Iberian Peninsula, right in the perfect place to drop a city and set off a war I'm sure we'd all love to see. Holding that sea tile has been a game changer, forcing Maria to split her navy. Queen Elizabeth must be pleased. Saleh is enjoying the isolation provided by Morocco's control of the coastline. That will have to change once Al-Mansur's neighbors start building caravels. The Inuit just won't quit. Rex is on the loose as they push another settler toward Kamchatka. If he takes that nice mountainous spot in the bay north of the highest peninsula, I'm going to be so pissed. That's a perfect place for the Yakuts to build a city, with the potential for 5 camps. It would easily be the highest gold per turn city in the game. If you look at the top of this slide, you'll notice a string of Inuit units most likely heading toward the New World for city defense. Of note, Zulus and Ashanti make peace. Not that it ever mattered anyway. In this war of giants, neither side has made any progress. Lahore has been starred out a bit by Afghan troops, but remains impenetrable. Perhaps out of frustration, Merviso Tark sends a lone composite bowman into Samarkand to die. I wonder what he did to deserve such a fate. To the west, Armenia is making headway against the Timurids at Bukhara. It turns out that settlers don't make very good soldiers. Armenia is gaining confidence, as they pull their catapult blockade closer to the shores south of Yavantashat. In the east, an Afghan settler knocks on Chinggis castle, asking if they could kindly move so he can put down the flag he's been carrying for like ever now. This open borders agreement between Tibet and Afghanistan may prove useful to the latter in the near future. Ah no, he didn't! David throws the gauntlet at the Trung sisters, though it does fall too short for them to even hear it. I'm guessing Genghis Khan put him up to it as a test of their friendship. A band of Hawaiians are getting homesick, tired of being blocked in by so many triremes. Meiji still has a pathetic military, and continues to focus on talking about Shinto to anyone who makes eye contact. The citizens of Haiphong never even answered the doorbell. Of note, Rizal has beefed up his navy quite well, sporting several galleasses off the coast of Cebu. No wonder the Trunks called it quits. Also, we can almost see Tokyo for the second time so far. In addition, Korea has run out of room in the Yellow Sea, and his triremes are spilling out into the neutral territory outside of Cebu. Oh shit, it's on now. Check out that sidebar. Chilean backdoor squad is a go. O'Higgins teams up with Pedro to lay a second smackdown on Pachacuti. This is the battle that should have happened the first time, since Eva Perón just sat around reading a dumb book. With the navy we saw earlier, it should be a bloodbath on the Andean coast. Now that I've gotten that out of my system, on to more important matters. The waves tremble throughout Micronesia. A deep booming sound swells as the beast has awakened. It can only be the call of didgeridoo. That's right, the Kimberley have finally woken up and directed their wrath at Vietnam. How are they even going to get up there? I mean, they obviously aren't allowed through Indonesia. Why? That's such a weak way to kick off the hype train. What else is happening? Oh yeah, the shores of Pangasinan are red with blood of the fallen as Rizal and Parks send wave upon wave of men to die at each other's hands. Rizal has enough galleasses in the water to win it back if they lose the city, and the experience will do them well if the area is this hotly contested. Of note, maybe I didn't notice it before, but Indonesia has their Chris swordsman now. Actually, it's pronounced Keris. Of course, they would have to use them to reap the benefits. How did every civ in South America end up at war together? I wonder if that Buccaneer scout in Cusco had anything to do with it. Well, Machu has handled a double-barreled attack before. Let's see if she can do it again. Upgrading to pikemen is a top priority for Pachacuti right now, if he wants to contend. Also, Vilcabamba has grown a tick since we last saw its introduction. At the top of the screen, Perón is standing a couple of ships up toward Paraná. Perhaps the Buccaneer trireme got a little too close for her comfort. There it is, the Chilean full frontal assault. It looks like Chile gets to move before the Inca, which is a huge advantage in this war. If O'Higgins had only settled the present-day La Rioja when he had the chance, we'd get to see the glorious backdoor squad in action. Machu is still holding up fine, and nobody has really done too much to affect the other just yet. And there it goes. Antium now belongs to Leonidas, who is so psyched about his conquest that he decides to cancel his holiday to Africa. Oh, I just remembered he's been fighting Poland all this time. Casimir must have uncovered Stalin's old stash. He didn't even put a dent in Berlin. He has a line of units adjacent to an unoccupied Adrianople which stands untouched, and he's thrown countless units to waste at the Pike Wall of Tegea. I thought Poland was supposed to be better than this. That must be some really strong stuff they have up there. Of note, Cumae is still flawless. How is this possible? Also, Sparta's borders have made Byzantium even more pathetic. If both they and China manage to survive, battle for the last place will be a tough one this time around. I'm not sure I'm reading this correctly. Does that say Mao Zedong has declared war on Attila? Whatever, dude. What did the guy ever do to you? I can understand, well, pretty much anyone in your general vicinity, but he doesn't even border with your now Mongolian cities. He must have a revised print of How to Fight Wars Good. I can find no other explanation. I mean, just look at them. More importantly, the Ashanti can finally breathe a sigh of relief. Their struggles are over. After a 5-way curb stumping from all sides, they have managed to make peace with all of their enemies. It couldn't come a minute sooner either. Kumasi was on the brink about to fall back on Morocco. Son of a bitch. Not only Kamasi, but Mampong? You couldn't have given up Atebubu and provided a shield against the Congo? That's it. You deserve to die for that. I'm done rooting for this underdog. Next. Well, look at that. Vietnam finally recruited someone who knows how to hold a sword. Vegan is once again back in the hands of the Trunk Sisters. And it looks like Hawaii finally managed to secure open borders with the Philippines, so they can get their boys safely back home. With such superiority, I'm wondering why Rizal isn't taking down Vietnam's battered navy. It appears he's more concerned with Australia, as he should be. Vietnam has stronger neighbors to keep them in check. If left alone, Australia would own the entire Pacific Ocean. While on that subject, Rim of Fire is really earning its reputation this installment, as even Indonesia have had enough of the power rankers chiding them for doing nothing at all in the entire game. Of course, they would have to strike a deal with either neighbor to the north in order to make it consequential, but the sentiment is nice. Ah, the paradise of New Zealand, a place where nothing happens and nothing matters. Note from TPang, lol, what a way to piss off all the Maori fans. Seriously, this frozen wasteland is more interesting than the last slide. Iceland has some strong core cities, but here we see that they're not much more than a paper tiger. A naval invasion could cut them down in a heartbeat. They need to turn that single galleass into dozens, pronto. In other news, Morocco was apparently at war with the Ayyubids. After 1,000 years of conflict, people asked, who's that? Of note, Vegan is now Pinoy again. Oh yeah, Finland is bringing the pain. I guess Mao stirred the pot, as Kekkonen sends a squad of melee units into Mosul's backdoor. Finnish backdoor squad? It just doesn't have the same ring to it. Let's try that again. Kekkonen sends a stream of units down the throat of the mountain pass and straight into the gut of Mosul. The taste doesn't sit well with Attila, who clearly never saw it coming. Maybe that giant mountain blocked his view. Looks like Harun al-Rashid has had enough of Attila's shit too, as Arabia joins the fun. In other news, Mirvai Sotak thumbs his nose at the Trunk Sisters. So that's Rizal, Jandamerra, Marder, Hotak. 4 notable enemies the Trunks have now. They're going to have to play a hard defense like Sparta if they want to keep at their current level. Of note, that Finnish settler who's been wandering in circles actually has a couple of spots he could claim if he could just make up his goddamn mind. I hope Attila puts that guy out of his misery. Also, Guchum Khan has offered an Israeli scout a gallery seat to watch the action unfold. St. Louis is back to full health in the hands of Ingolfur, who may actually be Pinky and the Brain in disguise, what with choosing a city name like Hafnarfjordur. What else is going on here? Eva Perón decides she's had enough, and we'll let the boys duke it out. Did I miss anything? Psych! It's Sue Gangbang 2, Epileptic Boogaroo. Seriously though guys, the horse is dead and beaten. There are other sequels to riff on, like Speed 2, this time the vessel is a ship. Or Under Siege 2, this time the vessel is not a ship. Or TMN 2, this time the vessel is for product placement. Anyway, let's get to the action. Lincoln asks his big brother Lester to beat Sitting Bull up for stealing his lunch money. Once again, Citadel placement proves invaluable as Canadian bowmen get wrecked by a pikeman. Despite their poor performance the last time around, the Sioux are actually very strong, as evidenced by their consistent appearance in the leaderboards. You have to be strong to survive a 4-way attack against these guys. This isn't West Africa. These guys have 20 pop cities and top 10 militaries, and the Sioux lost 2 outposts and 1 ambushed metropolis. Really not a bad showing considering the odds. Pearson is a generally tolerant leader, so I wonder what Sitting Bull did to earn his ire. The Inuit joined the fracas, and that Arctic citadel is already being put to use, as Ekunik carves into Ho-He to start the battle. I guess we know which direction those units were moving earlier. Sichangu looks decently defended, and the Inuit don't have the presence to match Sitting Bull's defense of the city. However, those cities at the top of your screen should be blue in no time. Of note, David and Meiji rattled their sabers at Attila, making the first time Japan has gone to war. If you were paying attention to the top of the screen last slide, you'd have seen this. Shenzhen now belongs to Sibir. Genghis thinks Kuchum is a poser Khan, and the city belongs to the real Khan. Kuchum doesn't care because his army of settlers is about to blanket the steppe. Israel watches. The DOWs keep flying as Sioux Gangbang 2, or as I like to call it, the Second First Nations War, gets into full swing. Benito wants to prove that he learned a thing or two about war since his last bumbling mess. Just a quick scan of his troop placement tells me this is going to be ugly. Fortaleza's fields are aflame, providing the perfect smokescreen for the Buccaneer scout to hightail it out of Incan territory before Pachacuti puts a bounty on his head for throwing all of South America at him. The full frontal assault is making headway toward Tiwanaku, but Machu continues to hold strong. You really have to give it up to the Inca this time. They're proving that they can handle business. Now they just need to put a bowman in that empty citadel up north. Back to Europe, where everyone hates Hitler. Speaking of Hitler, how on earth has he been able to defend Germany with such a paltry military? After seeing successful naval invasions of other cities, Hamburg doesn't look so menacing. Here we get our first look at Scandinavia this time around, and give Swedish supporters a chance to rip their hair out by showing so much undefended Finnish land. On the plus side, they have open borders with Poland, an agreement that could benefit both sides greatly if they decide to team up on somebody. Anybody. A Kunik can't be stopped, sending a settler to steal the precious camps away from any future Yakut settlements. In other news, some guys adopted new social policies. I'll allow you all to speculate about what they may be in the comments. By the way, here's Wakayama. So much hate in such little time. This is what Battle Royale is made of. Stalin wants payback for Leningrad. Besides, it looks like Mosul will fall soon. He really can't afford to let Finland claim land on both sides of the USSR. That would be suicide. Okay everyone, synchronize your watches. Hitler DOWs Rome and Sweden on turn 171. Of note, Finnish scouts are acting as human shield to protect a Russian settler. I don't think I've ever seen that before. That is pretty cool. Saladin calls it quits with Kruger, and Rizal says that's good enough for him too. It's probably so he can focus on protecting what little hold Islam has in the Ayyubid land, as he now has Mamluks to prevent the spread of other religions. Good luck with that one. He didn't even try to get Klerksdorp out of the deal. That's a shame. Also, Burma hates Vietnam. How did that Kimberley settler not get the island that became Tamaki Makarao? Also, how did the Aussie settler abandon the island to the north? Te Raupahara got lucky here. Of note, Benito is this far behind in tech. You can't see it, but I'm stretching my arms as wide as I can. Welcome to the past, Mexico. Attila has successfully pushed back the Finnish force at Mosul and set Sverdlovsk ablaze. Stalin must be pissed. The Huns have made good use of their horse archers this time, and it's so satisfying to see them in action after stagnating in the first battle royale. Good on you, Attila. Of note, somehow that Russian settler managed to slip through. It also appears Finland and USSR have open borders. Hannibal's defensive elephants are nowhere to be seen here, and that pair of spearmen is down to one. The city of Carthage has dealt with Medea's naval forces, but this doesn't look too good for Hannibal. He has landed on Sardinia, however, and is staging an offensive on Funchal. Splitting the Mediterranean in two would give Hannibal a major advantage, but it would also put a bullseye on Carthage. Caesar has reclaimed Antium, but owning the city even briefly was enough for Sparta to gain a precious land tile in just the right spot to drop a city. Will they seize the opportunity? The Trunk sisters were throwing everything they had at Vegan, but decided they just couldn't take it anymore. If I'm Anratha, I'm declaring war and storming Hanoi ASAP. If I'm Nga, I am reclaiming Vijaya, but I'm not. I'm just a guy watching an AI make inexplicable decisions. Meanwhile, the Hawaiians are hanging out in the Philippines with their Paniolo brothers. Sabia has been given access to the Vietnamese land, and that Shinto missionary is about to spread the word in Hanoi. So that's what Sri Lanka looks like. They've been building a few of their uniques. This would be a good time to use them, but I'm not holding my breath over it. Burma doesn't look too shabby either. They would look better if they sent a settler somewhere he could actually go, like that island tile just sailed right past it. Given enough time, he should figure it out. Of note, the Irish scout lost in Mississippi must have made his way north and struck a friendship with a Blackfoot. I can't stand to look at this. Why? Just why? In any case, Osei Tutu is building some citadels that will prove to be useful to Morocco later. Also, Jandamarra just jumped on the Attila hate train. Ireland has been mass-producing military units since the last time we saw them. You can't have that many without planning to use them somewhere. Trade relations with Iceland mean they're probably not a target. Norway is pretty imposing right now, and would get them on the mainland. But there's England, such a juicy and under-militarized victim to the south, wiping out Germany's navy. The fact that Elizabeth felt the need to send 2 melee units to take care of Hitler's only ship is amusing. Of note, we get a clear view of the pyramids of Dublin. The Inuit tell Sitting Bull, no way, ho hey. Next stop, Mawahota, soon to be Mawakolda. You know, this type of joke is always my favorite when narrating this, because it's always followed with the okay, I'll stop, which we all know is bullshit. Genghis won't be getting Shenzhen back anytime soon. Well, it looks like Kazan survived an attack. Who is the poser Khan now? And what's this? Afghanistan wants in on the mix? It's about to get real. Just how many enemies can Attila face at once? We're about to find out. Pachacuti has pushed back the Chilean navy without losing many of his own ships, and is executing a ground attack on Valparaiso. This is an interesting turn of events. Meanwhile, Machu is still a fortress. Henry Morgan took the Hawaiians' advice to heart, and settled La Habana and St. Kitts, with another settler on the move. He's still hesitant about that recipe though. Paraná to the south is claiming tiles. Sometimes it's best to just let things be. A mantra that Pakal has been taking too seriously. Baltimore looks like a tough nut to crack, which is good for Texas since it sits at the crossroads of Northeast and North America. Lincoln could afford to join the Sioux gangbang too without any casualties, using Texas as a nice buffer zone. Sending units through Canadian land may not gain him favor with Pearson though. Aw man! All the folks I know in Toowoomba, which is a surprising amount seeing as how I live in California, are good people. They don't deserve that. Well, maybe Rithal found a huntsman spider in the house and had the proper response. Of note, Burma is trying to be a homecoming queen. Note from TPang, I found a huntsman chilling on my toilet seat today. Like, I'm not too worried that you're in my house eating all the flies. But I don't think we've developed our relationship to the point where I'm comfortable with you shitting where I shit. That's better. Literally all it says here. Anarata decides he's afraid of heights and leaves the mountains to Songstan Gampo. Of note, the number of settlers in this slide is unsettling. See what I did there? The Huns continue their barnstorming tour of Russia. Their latest performance in Novosibirsk bringing down the house. Damn, Gina! I hope this was very convincing and I have not disappointed you. Holy DOW. Let's see what we have here. Burma and Afghanistan DOW Sri Lanka. That's going to be entertaining. We'll get to see those Wolverine healing longswordsmen in action. Jandamarra and Meiji DOW Rizal. That's a surprise. I thought Rizal and Jandamarra were friends. Kuchum Khan boards the Attila hate train, which I believe makes his current war the biggest one so far. Someone please make a gif where Oprah's throwing out the DOWs, this needs to happen. On the plus side, Sitting Bull made peace with Lincoln. I had forgotten about the Sioux-American War, and thought this was the mystery DOW from the last part. To be honest, it's still a mystery, but upon closer inspection, I believe it may have come from England. Does anybody remember Elizabeth forming an alliance? Because she is surely not fighting any immediate neighbors. I'm not too sure it was a good idea to declare war against an enemy when your nearest city has only one population. Is this bait and switch? Is Hota going to lure Persia into this and bounce out? To the north, it looks like Lahore's defensive force is becoming fatigued, but the city itself is a-okay. Meiji finally couldn't take Rizal holding Okinawa anymore and decides it rightfully belongs to Japan. It does in real life, but not in this timeline. So that makes Meiji an asshole. Of note, Korea has galleasses. Hwachas should be appearing any second now. Meiji also has a pikeman up there, so maybe his weak military is just a ruse. Shaoshan is on the way down, as Kuchum really took that poser comment personally. I'm so pissed that I didn't get to participate in the r/BRSE this round. Getting to do this more than makes up for having to hold my stocks in the r/BRSE. Big ups to Vietnamese delegate in the Model World Congress, username Poom3619, for creating the new header for the r/BRSE, which can be found if you go to reddit.com/r/BRSE and read the instructions carefully before proceeding. Of note, 4, count 'em, Sabir settlers hanging in one spot, and another in the southwest. You cannot buy or sell settlers in the r/BRSE, found at reddit.com/r/BRSE. God damn it, Lincoln. I'm glad we got the nice close-up shot of Philly as an American city a few slides back, because this has to be the dumbest move to date. Right up there with Byzantium giving Adrianople to the Ayyubids. The Sioux didn't even share any borders with you. This does not make me proud to be an American, where at least our cities are free. I literally just sighed after typing that. This is so infuriating. Oh, on the plus side, Canada has several trebuchets now. The Kimberley swarm on Laguna, opening the way through to the north. Butuan is the only other thing keeping them from spilling out into the world. Kamehameha hears news from the west and springs to action to support his brother Rizal, who gave him an open border. Oh yeah, that's right, fuck that guy, DOW. What's going on in the Pacific? This is complete madness, and it's awesome on so many levels. I can't wait to see what comes of this, as Hawaii has just built its first couple of uniques, the Koa. The Koa is a longswordsman that costs more but doesn't require iron. It starts with more XP and amphibious. Seeing how AI has stood for amphibious invasion in recent installments, I can't wait for Kamehameha to let slip the Frogs of War. Lastly, we see Armenia end on a good note as they take Bukhara from Timur. With no effective ranged weaponry to defend it, the city is destined to change hands before we see it again. Interestingly, Sibir has created a blockade to protect Revantashad from a southern naval invasion. There's been some delightful teamwork this time around, both in the game and at r/Civ Battle Royale. It's been a pleasure to share this with all of you, and with that, let's take a look at the boards. What's this? That's right, my friends, TPang has heard your calls. Behold the full list of Pantheon's beliefs and enhancements. Soak it in, it's so sweet. First, we have Mk2, which leads off with 2 completely worthless beliefs for this game. Religious community is a big one, as is Jesuit education. This holds the answer to the $64,000 question, though, and that is, who got tithe? And it ain't Mexico. Buddhism is going for happiness points, which explains why Burma was so lovely dovey toward the end of part 10 here. Byzantium gets fertility rights, which is comical in hindsight. Mexico has swords into plowshares, which explains their military strategies a little better, and religious fervor is going to be a huge gain for them if they can survive. Although they didn't get tithe, church property is a decent consolation prize. And now we see why Islam isn't lamb. Desert folklore has been the boon to Israel they needed to spam Europe with starts and mezuzahs. Holy warriors may have kept them in the game, since we saw how close they were to getting knocked out. Ethiopia gets a good defensive boost with Defender of the Faith, and growth with Feed the World. However, Just War may prove to be the most useful. Where did we see Meiji sending those missionaries again? In a surprise move, Eastern Orthodoxy is on the rise. Those holy wars have benefited Selassie more than they appeared on paper. Here we see how quickly Orthodoxy has spread, covering an area comparable to Catholicism in the Western Hemisphere. Mk2 has also grown to compete with Judaism, though there's still a lot of Europe to receive the world of Yiv. It's been a true pleasure, my friends. Thank you again, TPangolin, for allowing me to narrate this installment. I feel blessed to get such a good one. The hype train is leaving the station. All aboard.